This was given to the Order, and in particular the dragon elements of it, 10 years ago, as a final warning. It reveals much of their status and how they have gone about things. And essentially it opened up with a poem. The secrets of the universe are laid before you openly. See what you will, remembering that all is but an illusion. There are 3 mystical steps that will remain constant. The first is the esoterical, that which come from within. Oh my. The second is the spoken word and how it is expanded upon. And the third is the written word and how it is interpreted. Until that day, when all shall be reality. And then they received this. This was the secret to unlock your mind. Like I said, this is to the Order and the Dragon Clowns, plus other levels of the former control system. And it just goes to show that free gifts and aids to help you were pointless, as you have proved over and over again. All you ever wanted was a way to unlock the riches and treasures to be a personal benefit to you and not for all mankind as they were intended. It is clear now beyond doubt that none of you are worthy to be the guardians of mankind, as we have looked into your mind and soul for your true answers. Because your words, despite the warnings, are filled with lies and treachery. You have to go back a few years to remember what your job functions and your job targets were. We wanted to have the best people available at the most dangerous time of all mankind. That's why the dragon pills were given out originally. Life longevity. So that at the time of prophecy, for those of you who don't know, I tell you where the 9 dragon lords come together and join a circle, the world, at least half of the world, can be saved. That's a small part of it, but so far it seems I'm the only one left. The titles you have given yourselves now, like elders, grand elders, dragons by various colours, are, as you know yourselves, are false. You are just old people who, in their own desperation just to survive, have condemned the whole planet to extinction, and if anybody thinks this is not true, who's fooling who? We picked chosen people to complete the simple plan. And all you have to do, just to remind you, is to wait until that time when it would be necessary to come forward, and every 4 years, as the Silver Lady crosses the moon, as foretold in prophecy, I have returned. 4-year loop. None of you recognized me. Shame on you. This one time, because it was your last deadline, I was very open about my abilities and who I really am and who I really was throughout time. Passed all your tests, all your questions, played all your games, and still none of you have seated at our table. You have failed. The mission has failed because of self-interest. your wrong belief that you have the right to be emperors and princesses, and by just surviving so long and passing along information to your descendants, you and they have been awarded a place in heaven just by being chosen. This is a mistake. You are wrong. There was a plan. As you didn't know what the plan was, how could you follow it? You try to do things yourselves. Your thinking has become worse than the people out there. You have become more corrupt, more greedy than the people we have tried to keep the treasures from. It's not yours. You were the guardians. The reason all your misguided plan fails is because you didn't understand the true nature of what this is. We appreciate many of your ancestors have made great sacrifices, and we may reveal the oath that has been taken so that those individuals can be redeemed. But sadly for the rest of you who have only thought of yourselves and not of the greater good, are doomed. The plan was simple, but none of you bothered to work it out, because it was about everybody, and that's the one thing you have been unable to do. Think beyond yourselves. This common thought that have prevailed among your so-called top elders and those who have controlled them is to make the world worse, not better, so that the wealth and the treasures which you have tried to steal from the sacred hoard will be in some way meant more to you. This alone is so far from the end of the scale that you have become the rest of the people, whom we've been trying to protect from, and that's why we must protect them from you. Whether here in physical plane or above at the divine palace. Palace used to mean constellation in the past. You have been shown the secret, something bigger than yourselves, and you have missed the simple point that this is the place of the mind and time. When you agreed to follow the plan up there, for example, and then in the next instance think you can corrupt that and make it greater for yourselves and become kings and princes, and that the world will crawl over to you, the point is we can hear you. We can look into your heart, soul, and your mind. Remember, this is about the mind, body, and soul. You are truly stupid if you don't think we can hear you. Lies, deceit, and corruption you wear like a cloak, and only the people you are fooling is yourself. Only some of you have actually taken the next step there and answered the questions of the guardians, and you know who you are because you have seen more of the place than those in the waiting room. And if any of you have actually bothered to go through the gate of no gate, you would have seen me on the other side and known who I am without question, fear, or doubt. Some of your so-called grand elders called meetings at these special rooms, and instead of having it all together, you have them in little groups so that you could get your points across. Divide and conquer, you see. Just recently, you have been calling me to these meetings. Why? Because they were losing. And I was attending 7 meetings at the same time in different rooms, and you still don't know who I am. And even you have left the room or the waiting room and gone to the reception area and managed to answer 5 truthful questions to the guardians, you see me standing there waiting with open arms for you. Some of you have tried, only got 1 question right. Most of you, none of them right. Because you don't know the nature of your heart. This is why I talk about going into the heart centre, not the mind. You must first be honest with yourselves, people. Like the poem above, we have laid the universe open for you, and you are under some delusion that you are chosen and special. Not anymore. You have been chosen to perform a task. You have failed. Now that so many of you are dropping like flies, I've seen more of you at the waiting room in a mistake to believe that by being there, you have ensured place in heaven. This is not so. That room is a waiting room for those who have not done their tasks. You have been given the chance to find out more, yet none of you have gone through the gate of no gate. Among those among you who wish to control, your main goal is to be in control. Worst of all, you are trying to control me. Don't you children understand yet that in your desire and blindness to control, you are being manipulated and controlled by others? Husbands, wives, friends, advisors, people who have steered you off the path of righteousness, and you have let them. So don't blame them. By our very nature, we cannot be controlled. We just follow the plan. The plan works. None of you bothered to find out how the plan works. You made out legends about it, assuming titles like this colour or that colour dragon, without understanding that esteemed position entails. If it were true, you wouldn't be getting this letter. You would be sitting with me writing it. Does that make sense? Do you understand yet? The wealth of the world is not for single individuals. It is, as the name suggests, simple really. It's for the wealth of the world. You are offered heaven on earth and decided in your arrogance to make it a hell on earth for everyone. Because like spoiled children, you want everything for yourselves now, without cause and consequence to others or the planet itself. Shame on you. The great shadow conspiracy that has tried to manipulate the world since time began has used you, the dark forces. You have become as they are. Let's go back to all the tests and puzzles that put before us, things that nobody else but people like us could possibly know, things out of time. Proof of the proof has been given, and the only thing that keeps you away is your guilt and shame, because you now know that we can see right through you. 2020 vision. All I ask of you is that you look into the mirror and see it for yourself. If you like what you see, do not come. Stay away. If, however, you wish to redeem yourself and show true remorse, you may find redemption. And I will just remind you once again that your time is very short. As many years have behind you, you have less ahead of you. With all the people dying or getting sick or showing age, remember that look in the mirror, and for once being honest with yourselves. If you can't believe that image, then look around you. Now is the time. Stand up. Be counted in a true sense that you can be counted on to fulfill this mission, which it seems none of you, not one, knows its true form, because you have been testing you. We have been testing you, and you don't even need to tell me you have failed at every endeavour so far. I wouldn't mind if I hadn't gone into all that trouble to prove to you who we are. So the conclusion must be your actions or lack of them are deliberate. We are the voice in the wind that whispers only truth. And sadly, you are in such chaos within that hurricane swirl above you, so that truth can never reach you. It was all laid out for you. We have just come to remind you of your pledge and your promise and reap the rewards, because we reward for efforts, but instead of giving your God-given talents and treasure at your feet for good purposes, they are the very things that held you down and not lifted you up. These treasures were never yours to use, as you were their guardians. They were to be protected until the direst times of human history. Now really is the time. You must have noticed the safeguards that stop you from using them, as none of you have understood the system that we set up. All about intent. We've covered that in previous shows. Unless you have the right frequency, you can't access. As I understand it, there's less than 5 people on this planet who can access it, and none of them are clowns. All you have done is open the doors to the shadow conspiracy to seize and take those treasures, and sadly not even to use, because they cannot without the right heart and mind. These things are cursed. Oops. They have found themselves to be true and only wish to take possession of them, so we cannot use them ever again. So the fools among you who have given it away and who still using the excuse, oh, we didn't know, we just wanted to survive, you and you alone have caused the prophecy of the end of the world and all mankind to come into being. Now, if you're still under the false idea that you just by being chosen alone would give you a place in heaven without completing your mission, do not deserve the high regard we held for you, and those among you who have gone out of your way to select advisors and tricksters. Who promised you the world and given you nothing? For we know your intention was to steal the treasures you were meant to protect. These people think they can hide, you see. But there are some people and beings who can read from afar. hearts, minds, thoughts. There is no hiding on that level. The grain of rice that you have stolen on each of these attempts could have fed the world, and each grain of rice that you gave away could have fed the world. We see you, we hear you, and we despair. Those of you who went to the railway station to board the gravy train, or those of you who went to the docks to wait for the boat to come in, even those of you who waited at home for opportunity to knock on your door, just by its very nature of trying to use the sacred treasures for your own benefit, have not understood it. You were told to wait until you were told the time was right for the good of the world. The time is now, very nearly up. Now I know the concept of time is not your strongest suit, because you've used it as an excuse. We waited long enough. Two things. One, who were you to judge when the time was right? Now you are still thinking of the treasures were yours even now. Now I know some of you really know that this mission was for a special purpose, and the term chosen people is a self-selection process. Only those who chose to come forward, now at the end of time here, can lay claim to that title and that privilege. Only those who choose to come forward now at the end of time can lay claim to that title and privilege. And the silly thing is that you would have gained even greater rewards than what you were trying to steal from us. But for some reason you are happier stealing a grain of rice a day than having a bowl of rice for everybody for all eternity. If you really want to be saved and rewarded as promised, whatever your position you were within the structure of society that we set up, even those invited in by others and not by us, perhaps it is your destiny if you choose wisely. Now the choice is yours. Come or stay. And any past transgressions or mistakes or faults or evil deeds may be forgiven. Just put fear behind you. It's safe because it's the right thing to do. This is your destiny. Follow it. If this warning is not heeded, we can promise you this. The worst amongst you shall live to see the suffering and collapse of this world and the people around them firsthand. Those of you who just give up shall be shown the mercy of death, which you will be no good to us one way or another. Death will seek you. Those among you who actively seek to steal the treasures shall know the answer. You shall live in the hell on earth which you created, and shall see and live the sufferings of a dying world. You shall remain alone, without a friend in the world or in heaven. You made this hell on earth, so shall it be. The best amongst you shall be rewarded on earth and in heaven. As you have proved beyond doubt, our faith in humanity was not misplaced. To you, I promise your efforts have not gone unnoticed. We all thank you. One last warning we want you to pass this amongst yourselves and talk about it to everybody you can, everybody you know, so you get it twice. Somebody else likes you, but be warned. If, as before, you claim this message and this call to duty to come for a meeting as your own, with everybody getting the message from other sources, your falsehood would shine bright. The self-selection process to be chosen is in each and every one of your hands. You must choose yourself now. This is not a command. This is a matter of conscience. You come or stay. Freedom of choice, freedom of will, and when others choose for you, they must bear the weight of that sin. And let us all just say one small thing on that. For those of you who don't believe in heaven or afterlife, you won't believe redemption either, or remorse. So you've already chosen. You won't be there. But how deep in hell you will be depends on how many people you stop coming. For those who don't believe in redemption or heaven or afterlife, then it won't matter to you whether everybody knows or not. So you might as well pass it along to see what happens. You never know. One of the people may vouch for you. You need redemption more than others. Sadly, you know it. Give everybody the chance to come. Don't choose for them. Let them choose for themselves. We will ask everyone who sent them this message. It is a point-scoring theme. There is plenty on the table to share out amongst everybody. It's a good plan. If we follow the plan, and as far as we can tell, which nobody should disagree with us so far, we are the only ones who know the plan, and therefore the only ones who can reap the benefits. So wouldn't you like to be on the winning side just once, after all the pain and sufferings and sacrifice, for a divine plan to bear fruit in the physical world? Instead of stealing it, would you like to just earn it for a change and actually be on the winning team? We invite you, choose wisely, choose survival. If it is guilt and shame that has kept you come forward, all may be forgiven. If your excuse has been up until now is that it is not within the rule of the family society, let us remind you once again that there is just but one rule, and that is to follow the plan. And as we have already seen, nobody but us know the full extent of the plan. So any rules that have been made up to control you, to force you against your true nature of a pure spirit of conscience, as you once were, so shall you be again as a pure spirit of conscience. So those of you who have been holding back the true nature and spirit of our people and their true purpose, you need to come back to the fold more than most and find redemption. This is your last chance. Help our people fulfill their destiny. Do not hold them back any longer. Look within yourself, hear the truth of these words, and know in your heart that this is the right thing to do. Remember, this is your world. We are just guides. The point of this whole thing is that you have all passed each other and every deadline set to you, so that now less and less can be done. There is one final deadline which we have been asked or pleaded to give you by the masters of time in the divine palace, who have never given up hope on you to choose survival over personal greed. You record time by using different calendars, but here we should use our own and symbolic date that we shall use is our New Year's Day, which is the 6th of June, for which for a point of reference will be the year 7757, which is the date in history when we start the calendar again. After the last major global catastrophe on this planet. It was known as the Day of Resurgence, when we came back from the dead, as it were, to survive again. It has no meaning to you now. You have forgotten. So on this of all days we have chosen, it shall be a day of new beginning or the end. So sometime between now and that day, you and you alone will choose in person by replying to this message, this call for hope, whether it will be a new beginning or the end for all mankind. It's that serious. It really is. You have lived in a dream long enough. Time to wake up. Wake up. Wake up and remember. Those words that float across time and space. Time to fulfill your destiny. Remember, this is your world. We are merely here to help as guides. Like I said, that was 10 years ago. Perhaps people understand more having heard that when I did the Future of Humanity show, which was the very first must listen to show. The consequences that were facing humanity. It was going to end by 2012. All very interesting stuff and raises questions, to me anyway, as to why these clowns, as we call them, the Order, Illuminati, etc., which they termed as guardians, were allowed to continue when they clearly failed. Is it not the responsibility of the entities that appointed these guardians on humanity's behalf to deal with their poor choice in some aspects? Surely, if you are guides, you would also monitor them and react accordingly, not wait for them to go off the rails and then point fingers. Everyone has a responsibility as an individual and a collective. There was a dual responsibility here to a species, humans, that has and had been interfered with badly, and essentially children on a universal level. More should have been done, in my opinion. This is from Kim. They were warned just over 10 years ago, yet they persist like greedy little piglets, claiming they own this. They never did. Maybe it's time to remind them, as they all received this letter then. They also received a very harsh warning on the 13th and 14th of September 2019 from the new Queen, Ms. L. They know who she is, and they still are doing the same thing. Clamouring like a bunch of fools for a position that doesn't exist. My own position was reaffirmed on this same day. I am doing the job that was outlined to me in detail with the detailed plan that was approved on the 15th of September 2019. That's the people's plan. They had none. The trust is no longer a singular name, no longer any person's name other than myself as signatory. Manor name has been removed. And I transferred funds out of these accounts again on the 2nd of October 2019. Everyone is disappointed on the higher levels, way over the families in humanity. You had one shot, people. If you receive this, it is because I think you may be in some position to reach back out to the order in some way, or in a position to propel humanity forward. Stop waiting for these people to save you, or control banks or governments. It is no longer their time. It's yours, and it's ours. Choose wisely. In 6 months' time, there will be nothing left. Literally nothing left for humanity. Everyone, including them, loses everything. Trading will resume, and clean-up will take place, and they will be gone from existence, exactly as the poem reads. Final warning. Final piece of intel. A few of the large banks and the Federal Reserve have pledged to work together with the trust to get liquidity into the banking system in 148 countries. They do have some opposition. However, it appears the tide is turning in our favour. More importantly, in favour of the people.